question we get every single day, 6-7 times a day, is, am I getting a needle today?
There's been an accumulation of evidence over the last couple of decades that if we don't manage pain during procedures, that it can have long-lasting effects. So in the long term, my concern is the possibility of developing needle fears and phobias in children which persist for life.
Our current system for immunizing has holes in it. And one of the big holes, I think, is the fact that people stay away from needles because of pain. My oldest son, who's a big strapping, youth services worker with the province, is nervous about needles. So I don't think he gets as many as he should because he's nervous about them. And it's not, and it's common. You see it all the time.
I'm married to someone who's a 6'2" man, and honestly, he's fainted.
Imprinting is a bigger deal than we think. You see these big football players who go run into each other on a regular basis for a living, and yet they're scared of a little needle. These formative memories live with us. So when you're a child, there's plasticity. Your nervous system, your immune system are figuring things out. But once they lay the wiring down, that wiring is laid down. So if your wiring is laid down wrong, you're stuck with it because adults can't rewire very well.
And so little life events that would seem pretty benign to a lot of people, because the nervous system is so highly charged, send these kind of people who have had a lot of activation through the roof.
I thought, I can do this. And I wanted the baby more than I didn't want the blood test. And I was good until I saw the needle. I fell on the ground and I started screaming, like I must have been like a wild animal. They had the crisis response team coming in. Nobody knew what was happening because you don't hear these noises from the blood test room. And I wish to God I could just faint, but I'm not a fainter.
I think she remembers last time that she was here. Yeah. Is that possible? So she's crying because she remembers last time when she came in here, she had a needle.
So we know that whatever we've been doing with these infants and children, the painful experience of a needle is way up there in terms of what they're most apprehensive about.
She was already worked up before it even started because she remembered.
The trauma is not the event, it's the physiological response. Just like stress is not an event, it's a physiological response to something.
The statistics would suggest that about 10% of people avoid immunizations because of fear of needles.
As a vaccinologist, I want to make sure everybody gets the vaccines that are recommended because that protects them against some pretty nasty infections.
If we can provide strategies for the family health team to use to reduce the distress that the parents and the children experience, then that is really beneficial to everybody.
Parents are surprised that they can go to their local pharmacy and for $5 purchase a topical anesthetic cream that will significantly reduce their child's pain.
Well, I'm a pain researcher, so I know about the treatment of pain, but I really learned about pain when I saw my own children undergoing a painful procedure contrary to best practices, even when I was advocating on their behalf and I was trying to get them to use the interventions that I know work. So I realized we really needed to move the science of pain management from academia to the public arena. So my colleagues and I started videotaping my children, as well as other people's children, to be able to demonstrate how easy some of these interventions are. We apply topical anesthetic creams, and these are medications that numb the skin, like the EMLA patch. And we also demonstrated the use of bubbles, which is a distraction, and they work really well. And we began pilot school programs. Who remembers the last time they got a needle?
Mine like a month. Mine was when I was 4. Mine was yesterday.
Do you think managing pain for kids getting shots is important?
Yeah. Yes. When they were trying to make me distracted by the bubbles, it kind of actually worked.
Can you point or make a circle or something near how much hurt you felt when you got the needle? Just use the pen and show me how much hurt.
Like you could hardly feel. I like how after we got our needle, we got to evaluate how it felt, like a smiley face or a sad face. Or
no one's ever asked you before.
No.
Too bad. So sad.
They're just like, okay. They're like, okay, here's the needle. Goodbye.
How does that make you feel if they don't ask you about that?
It just makes us feel like they don't care. They don't care. Yeah, they don't care about our pain. They didn't ask us how painful it was.
Nope. No. Gave us the needle and goodbye.
Lollipop, get around.
It's like important to get people's opinions on how the needle felt and how the patch felt, how it went.
So before, no one told you anything about it, no one asked you anything about it, right? So that makes it even worse, it makes it scary. But now you have a toolkit. You know in your mind there's different things you can do. You can put on a patch, You can have a game or a toy, an iPod. Someone can be rubbing your arm. You have all these strategies that you know will help you get through the procedure. So it's less scary. When it happens again, you know what to do. And that's helping you to take away the pain.
That should be standard. I think that should be standard. I think for any, especially with health nurses coming in, that should just be automatic. I can only imagine being a nurse coming into a school and having to do this. Wouldn't you rather make it a more pleasant experience and have these poor children? Do you want children crying? Do you want children fearful? I mean, the minute the needle comes out, you can see their faces. They're imagining all kinds of things.
Don't ever look at the needle. It hurts more.
Yeah, I just turn.
It feels like
I just turn my head around. Yeah.
If you do look at the needle, it feels like you're in a hypnotic trance, just like staring at it. You want to tilt your head away, but it's just stuck there.
Many of the older kids told us when they get their shots in the school clinics, the nurses are using the old technique of pulling back on the plunger, aspirating to make sure that you haven't injected the vaccine into a blood vessel.
I've had a nurse take the needle and wiggle it around in my arm for a bit and then withdraw it really slowly, and it hurts more when it's being taken out.
The nurse that I got, she did it really slowly, and it just really hurts.
But we now know that the sites that are used, the upper arm or the thigh in infants, there are no major blood vessels that you can inject the vaccine into. So the quicker you give the shot, the less the pain, and we've shown that in a number of studies.
What's the bubbles? You blow.
The older kids told us how they felt about needles, and we gave them simple techniques they could use, like breathing exercises that they could concentrate on during the procedure.
I really hated going to the doctor's office to get a needle, and for the hours leading up to it, I would be nervous about it, and it would hurt more.
Is the needle in me?
Oh, it's gone. It's long gone.
What do you think you want to tell other kids about how to make the needle hurt less?
Knowing that it will only take a couple of seconds. Yeah. I just know because whenever I get shots, I count for a certain amount of time, and also my doctor does that. He tries to be a record or something of how long it's going to be.
How can parents help?
It doesn't help when they say you will feel no pain at all. That's just a big lie.
And I think they lie to you, and then it does hurt. You're not going to trust them later on.
It's not that big. It has to.
So you'll feel more secure when they're giving you good advice later on.
They won't listen to you next time if they know you're going to lie to them.
Yeah. Part of kids' preoccupation with needle pain is that they're getting so many more needles than they ever did before.
More shots are now being given.
Giving multiple vaccines at virtually every visit that a child comes in for, we have noticeably seen that parents are stressed, the healthcare provider who's providing the vaccines are stressed, and the children are stressed.
We probably give 18 to 20 needles in the first 18 months of life. And I think that's an advance, the fact that we have vaccines to prevent illness, serious illnesses. We used to see one kid a week at SickKids with meningitis. Now we see one a year. So I think the advances are really important.
By the time kids reach school age, they dread getting their shots. And so we tell them that they can bring distraction agents like toys or laptops, iPhones, anything to get their mind off the procedure. And we also introduce the use of topical anesthetics or numbing creams to numb the skin.
Okay, so you just pay attention to your game.
And in the younger kids, we actually call it the magic cream.
Our dad has an iPhone that we can watch videos on.
That's the other distraction. And another thing to stop the pain is magic cream.
I would think that the doctors should use the amla cream and some distractions to keep their mind off the needle. And the cream would also help.
So we're going to let it sit there for a little while. Give it some time to go through the skin. And then when it's ready to get the vaccine, we'll take it off and it'll have already penetrated through the skin. Okay?
It doesn't hurt as much. I don't notice the pain. And usually because I bring a distraction like my laptop here.
Don't pay attention to the needle, okay? You're paying attention to your distraction over here.
Sometimes I play games on it. Sometimes I watch a video, maybe listen to music.
It's done?
Yeah.
And takes your mind off the needle.
And these simple techniques, they change the experience for everyone. The kids, the parents, the teachers, and the public health nurses. We want to change the experience in the medical office setting as well. We know that when parents are anxious, their kids can pick up on that.
The way the mother smiles, or the way the mother holds the baby, or the way the mother talks, or it's the tone of the voice. And sometimes it's the language they use. Sometimes they'll say, this is going to hurt me more than you. And we try to get parents to avoid using that kind of language.
Needles don't bother me, so I think maybe that helps with my children. The dentist bothers me, and that affects my children for sure.
So we're going to give him 2 shots. One is more painful than the other. We know that from previous studies that we've done. So we're going to give him the least painful shot first. Giving the least painful vaccine first, you've not conditioned the infant to a painful response. So if you give them more, if we flip it around, you give them more painful vaccine first, there's a memory, even in that very short period, and the infant has felt the pain, and when the next needle comes, even though it's less painful, the whole body is tuned to the fact that there's been pain. When one gives the vaccine, particularly with little infants, many physicians, nurses might have the infant lying on an examining table. But we know that as soon as the baby starts to cry, the mother picks the child up. So it makes sense that you should be holding, the mother should be holding, the caregiver should be holding that infant at the time the vaccine is given. It provides safety, it's security, and we've shown in studies that if you compare infants who are injected lying down compared to being held by the mother, that there's significantly less pain when the mothers hold infants.
The interventions are so simple and so inexpensive. Sugar water, for example.
So sugar water works to reduce pain, probably by a number of mechanisms. And there are many randomized controlled trials that have shown whether it's just the taste that these little infants have in their mouth, which is distracting them, or whether there's some interference in the neurological pathways, but it really seems to be effective.
I'm going to wave to the camera, Max. Max, look at Ollie.
Oh, he's going to blow bubbles. Go.
Okay, Ollie, don't tilt it, honey.
Okay, Oliver, turn around and show your brother the bubbles.
Can you talk to Max?
Say, look at the bubbles. Look at the bubbles. There we go. Look at the bubbles. Look at that. Wow. Wow. Oh, my.
I know. That was kind of annoying, wasn't it?
What else works for babies?
You can dip sugar water.
Wow. How do you know about that?
A movie.
Oh, my movie.
Breastfeeding has also been shown to reduce pain. There's some lovely studies that have shown that breastfeeding actually reduces the pain compared to infants who are not breastfed.
Okay, sweetie, 1, 2, 3. That's up.
Crying.
It hurts. I don't like it.
They start to dread coming to the doctor, and every time they have a doctor's appointment, they're like, are we getting a needle? And they're just so anxious about it.
Because needle phobias are so common, there's a growing interest in developing a national program that can help address this problem. We've started workshops to help roll out these guidelines into common practice. Now you see what it looks like with an older child. This is an adolescent undergoing a vaccine injection. You can see that she's afraid of the needle. So this problem is not going away. It's manifested slightly differently, but it's still there.
Doctor, do you want to do it? I don't want to poke her.
No, go. You don't want to go.
Please.
Just look at
really necessary? Is it really necessary?
Yes. Courtney, look at me. Look at me. Courtney.
What?
It really is necessary. It's not a choosing time.
Okay. Just take a deep breath. Another one.
And then it'll be over.
Another one. I don't know how to do any faster.
I know.
You're hurting me! Ow, I have a huge bruise there. Don't touch
I
me.
need you to stand here.
Yeah.
I need you first of all just to relax. I'm going to hold your hand for a second. Okay. Just relax. Look the other way. But really, the phobia is so significant for some of these children. They kick, they bite. I personally haven't been bitten, but I've certainly been kicked in a place where you wouldn't want to be kicked.
The procedure may last a second, but the effects of pain last a lifetime. And people will carry these fears into adulthood, and they will not engage in preventive healthcare strategies like getting immunized, like going to the dentist, and they will also be non-compliant with medical treatments like insulin injections if they're diabetics, for example.
Healthcare avoidance behaviors are prompting the development of vaccines that can be given in other ways. We're talking about vaccines that we can give in the nose with a nasal spray, or vaccines that can be given in the mouth, say with an oral liquid or a tablet. But it's going to be many, many years before all vaccines are given without a needle.
In terms of measuring pain, we hear a lot of times clinicians say things like, well, the baby cried anyway, the child cried anyway, even when we use enema, even when we gave sugar water. We're not just talking about whether a baby cries or doesn't cry, we're talking about the quality of the cry, how long the child cries for.
So it is much better. Obviously, one, single intervention.
You can see the timer up there. That's how we measure if there is any crying, how long it lasts for. We cried for 1 second.
When you ask parents, what is the minimum difference or the minimum reduction in pain that you want for your child, they tell us as little as 10% or 15% reduction in pain is important to them. That may not be what clinicians think, but to a parent, reducing pain by even that much is important for them, and they would want that for their child.
I'm not just a researcher. As a mother, I see what medical procedures can do, these routine procedures, and I think it's so important for parents and health professionals during these interactions, during immunization pain, to treat it, to manage it.
But there are consequences of things that you experienced in childhood that will come back and affect you as an adult.
Well, I think it's important for there to be a resource for all Canadian immunizers to go to.
We can reduce the pain of immunization and just make it a more positive experience all around. If we have the information, then we need to act on it. And that's now at the stage that we're at.
When I was a kid, it was pretty hard for me. I was just terrified.
Our second son, our middle son, who's 10, he's always been very anxious with the experience of needles. So with him and my youngest, my 6-year-old, I found that they're both more anxious. They both fear it, and they need to know ahead of time what they're going into. They need to know that they're walking into a room and that they're having a needle, and the needle's for a good reason. It's going to keep them healthier. That said, the crying starts before the needle starts. The doctors here and the nurses are great at what they do, so they're going to make sure that he's not going to be uncomfortable.
Part of the beauty of the guidelines is they actually take some thought into how you can do things that don't actually mean your patient sit for an extra hour and it costs a lot of money, because they're actually low-cost interventions, and a lot of the interventions are really no cost and no time.
And we know that our guidelines can be implemented in other healthcare settings. So in clinics where kids are getting blood tests or other procedures done or other medications are being injected, we can implement the same pain management practices, and it'll be effective for those procedures as well.
I'll start with Antonio just because he's closest to me. Antonio, what do you think about getting injections?
Excuse me, I'm kind of closer.
Okay. So tell me.
Have you seen my video?
What if someone made it so that it didn't hurt? Would you like it then?
Yeah.
Yeah, he would.
What advice would you give to kids to sort of get through the process?
I know that. Make them stop crying by giving them lollipop or juice.
Why would lollipops or juice help?
Because it's sweet. Because it's yummy and they'll be too concentrated on it.
It's important that we get this information out to parents and healthcare providers so that parents feel comfortable bringing their children in for immunization.
There are a number of things that cause parents, both consciously and also subconsciously, not to keep up the immunizations and keep them up on time. And pain is an important factor.
Andrew's not stupid.
Andrew! There are other factors as well, but what we need to do as vaccinologists is to make sure we eliminate as many of these factors as possible. I think this is the first time that pain is being taken seriously at the levels of practice that it is. The stakeholders that were at the meeting represented the ministries of health, represented agencies, they represented physician groups, nursing groups, all people who help set the tone for what their practitioners should do, who give guidance to their people who are delivering vaccines on what the best practices are for management of pain around immunization.
Thank you.